was talking about Massachusetts Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, who joins us shortly. And although this was perhaps the most incendiary venue in which to use that term, it's hardly the first time he has.
Pocahontas. That's this Elizabeth Warren.
I call her Pocahontas, and that's an insult to Pocahontas.
And Massachusetts is represented by Pocahontas, right? Pocahontas. It may be Pocahontas, remember that. What an insult to Pocahontas, isn't it? I was being hit by Pocahontas, and Pocahontas is not happy. Elizabeth Warren. She's one of the worst senators. Who, Pocahontas?
Well, now candidate Trump has already been criticized for this. He's already been accused of using a racial slur. Today, when asked about using it at an event ostensibly to honor Native Americans who risked their lives employing their distinct language to help us win the Second World War, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders denied it was a slur at all. Here's what she said.
Is it appropriate for the president to use a racial slur in any context?
I don't believe that it is appropriate for him to make a racial slur or anybody else.
This is a racial slur, so why is it appropriate for him to
Well, I think, like I said, I don't think that it is, and I don't think that was certainly not the president's intent. I think, again, like I said, I think the most offensive thing. I'm sorry?
Does he see political value in calling people out racially? Why use that?
Look, I think that Senator Warren was very offensive when she lied about something specifically to advance her career. I don't understand why no one's asking about that question and why that isn't constantly covered.
Well, joining us now is Senator Elizabeth Warren. Senator Warren, thanks for being with us. So the president referring to you once again as Pocahontas, I wonder what was your reaction when you heard that?
You know, I really couldn't believe it, that there he was at a ceremony to honor Native Americans, men who had really put it all on the line to save American lives, to save lives of people, our allies during World War II. Really amazing people. And President Trump couldn't even make it through a ceremony to honor these men without throwing in a racial slur. You know, he thinks that somehow he's going to shut me up with that, and it's just not going to happen. It didn't work in the past. It's not going to work in the future. I'm going to keep fighting for all the issues I'm fighting for. And today in particular, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's generating a lot of problems for the president.
Yeah.
And so he'd sure like to talk about something else. His tax bill, he'd sure like to talk about something else. The Congressional Budget Office score has now come out. More information about this tax bill, how it's going to be a big giveaway to billionaires, giant corporations, run up the debt by $1.4 trillion and raise taxes for people making less than $75,000 a year. He don't want to talk about any of that.
I want to ask you about those in just a moment. I do want to have you address, Sarah Sanders, as you just heard, defended the president's comments, saying, quote, what most people find offensive is Senator Warren lying about her heritage to advance her career. What do you say to that?
Look, I learned about my family the way that most people learn about their families. My brothers and I learned from our mother and our daddy and our grandparents who we are. And that's it. That's how we learned it. That's what we know.
And to the allegation that you were using this to advance your career?
Never. I never used it to get ahead. I never used it to get into school. I never used it to get a job. Look, this is just a way for Donald Trump to be able to try to get somebody talking about something other than what he's doing, which is advancing a terrible tax plan, trying to gut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Well, let's actually talk about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because it is now this kind of a bizarre drama which is surrounding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Do you believe the president was within his authority to appoint Mick Mulvaney as director? Because now there's two people basically saying they're the acting directors.
Well, you know, look, Donald Trump is trying to bring chaos to the consumer agency, but let's just start with the law. The Dodd-Frank law that was passed by Congress provides for succession, and the way it does that is it says there's a director. If the director is unavailable, the director has resigned, then the deputy director automatically becomes the director. There's no appointment. There's nothing fancy that has to be done. It just happens automatically. That's the law that Congress passed. And so Donald Trump claims, well, he can use something called the Vacancy Act that was passed a couple of decades before that. The problem with that is the Vacancy Act applied to all of the agencies that had been built before the time that the Vacancy Act was passed. But going forward, it would apply as a default unless Congress set up a particular succession plan for an agency, and that's exactly what Congress did. In fact, here's an amazing thing about the CFPB. In an earlier draft, the Congress had thought about, well, let's just do it under the Vacancy Act. That would have left the president, whoever it was, to be able to name someone when the director left. But then in the final version, the one that was voted on and signed into law, Congress said, no, we really don't want to do that. What we want to do is have it happen automatically. If the director's unavailable, it goes to the acting director. The reason for that, push that agency as far away from partisan politics as humanly possible.
Because the Republicans are saying it needs more oversight. You're saying essentially, you're saying that there's a reason it was set up the way it was, so it's not beholden to anybody on either political stripe.
And you know, that's been the idea behind banking regulation since the Civil War. When the very first banking regulator was set up back in the 1860s, the whole idea was to say, for example, the funding should not be done through politics. It should be done separately through fees and other mechanisms. And the reason was pretty straightforward. We didn't want a world where some giant national bank would lean on Congress, and then Congress would lean on the agency not to do the oversight that was necessary.
Senator Warner, I just want to ask you about the reporting from the New York Times that the president is now privately questioning the authenticity of that Access Hollywood tape. We just spoke to the Times reporter who now says a third person has told her, Maggie Haberman, that the president has questioned the authenticity about this, and even suggested to one of the senators, maybe he would hire people to look into the authenticity. Does that make any sense to you, given the fact he's already apologized for what he said on it?
You know, look, he's already admitted what he said. I watched him during the debates, you know, when he talked about, well, it was just locker room talk and so on. But if this is a new age of accountability, where Donald Trump wants to be held accountable to the dozen or so women who came forward and said that Donald Trump had forced himself on them in various sexual ways, and he thinks it's time to get out there and decide to put his views out so we can have some real accountability, then bring it on.
Senator Elizabeth Warren, appreciate your time. Thank you.
You bet.
We'll return to what the president said today and get the view of two conservatives next.
Joseph A. Banks up to 70% off sale.
Yes, honey. That's what I'm trying to get to. He's talking about denying what he said on the doing that Access Hollywood portion, where he was basically heard talking about how he just grabbed women's crotches, and now he's trying to say that all that was fake, and he, you know, basically denying the authenticity of those tapes. He already apologized for it. He can't deny those tapes. We already know he's a crotch grabber and a womanizer, and he forced himself on those women. I think it was like 11 or 12 women. So now they're bringing all this to the forefront. I wish they'd have done this over a year ago before he was nominated to be president. We might not be in this shit show right now. I'm just saying. That's just my freedom of speech to say so. So I want to see what these people got to say in regards to all this. So I'm pausing the commercial, and hopefully by the time I unpause it, it'll be back to the live. I hope that's how this thing works, Lord. Let me peek.
All dress shirts $2 for $89.
Oh,
All
damn.
executive suits $199. And all Pima cotton sweaters $20.
Oh,
You're
wait, that is how it works. Hey.
When food is good and clean and real, it's okay to crave. And with Panera Catering, there's more to go around. Panera, food as it should be.
And just in case y'all just tuning in, CNN is basically live talking about Donald Trump and his latest shenanigan. Right now, he's denying the fact that those Access Hollywood tapes were authentic, where he was basically recorded talking about how he grabbed women's crotches and how he can do whatever he wanted to do to women based on his power and money and status. He was recorded saying he grabs crotches, forced himself on women, and I think about 11 or 12 women came forward saying that Donald Trump done so. So recently, he was basically denying the authenticity of those tapes. That puts him in Front Street on blast. So now that you want to deny him, let's see what happens. Basically, he's gonna have it investigated, so he says, allegedly, but we shall see, and they're going to talk about that now on CNN. Let's see if we've gotten to the point where it's back live.
Get it for you for under $1 a day.
Not quite, but we're going to hang in there.
Found Alec, 38, a $500,000 policy for under $23 a month. Select Quote found Kenesha, 37, a $750,000 policy for under $21 a month.
Select Quote Secret? They impartially shop a select group of highly rated companies like these for your best rates. Give your family the security it needs at a price you can afford.
Since 1985, Select Quote has saved over 1 million families millions of dollars on life insurance. Call now, 800-977-3814. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Discover what over 1 million families know. We shop, you save.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Before the break, you heard from Senator Elizabeth Warren talking about President Trump's remarks today, referring to her as Pocahontas in front of Native Americans at an event that was supposed to honor their extraordinary contributions to victory in World War II. Here again is just what the president said earlier today.
And I just want to thank you because you're very, very special people. You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas.
Joining us now, two conservatives, Ed Martin and Tara Setmayer. So, Ed, is it appropriate for the president to make a comment like this, particularly at this event to honor Native Americans?
Well, I think the president is the president, right? I mean, three quick observations. Number one is the Navajo code talkers. If he hadn't said something, we probably wouldn't be having these conversations. So the purpose was to lift them up. They're impressive, amazing stories. We lose more of World War II vets every day than anything. So I think that's really great. The second observation, Anderson, is whatever Senator Warren meant in her interview just now, which I listened to, she has admitted or at least conceded that her ethnicity or background or her characterization of it was used by her schools and to an advantage. So I don't know what she means by not denying it. And the bottom line is this: she's made herself out as one of the people who's going to run for president. She talks about it regularly, and the president is, making one of his jabs that that those of us that like him we smile at. And I think, I think it's nothing that's out of the ordinary for him. And I don't find it offensive. I think it's more fun and effective than anything.
Tara, fun and effective?
Well, he never answered your question. Was it appropriate?
Yeah,
you felt it was completely appropriate.
100%. Yep.
Okay. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Who are you to determine what Native Americans find offensive and what they don't? That would be
I was asked what I thought.
Right, but you said you said that you didn't find it offensive, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders said she didn't find it offensive, and you guys are not Native American. Maybe you don't find it offensive, but plenty of Native Americans find that offensive. And the fact that the President of the United States doesn't have enough respect or enough tact to even recognize that it's just inappropriate, that you don't make comments like that when you're honoring someone else. He was honoring the Navajo. Not, you don't make a racially insensitive joke in front of people like that, especially standing in front of an Andrew Jackson painting where the history of what Andrew Jackson did to the Native Americans in this country is atrocious, and the Trail of Tears and everything that happened during that. Perhaps someone should have thought about that before they staged it in that room. I mean, that was offensive in and of itself, I feel, more than even the Pocahontas comment, for goodness sakes. But it's just the unmitigated gall of the President of the United States and other people that don't have Native American culture that politicize that and then have the nerve to say, well, it's not offensive. I just think it's tasteless. It's tasteless. How is this conservative? How does this advance republicanism? How is this appropriate for the President of the United States in that situation? It just doesn't.
And I guess what I don't understand, I mean, what does the President get out of saying something like this? I know, obviously, you think it's funny or kind of like his sort of jabbing fighter spirit.
It's classless.
But again, I mean, is this really the ceremony to be doing that in?
Well, I mean, Anderson, many people that spend time with President Trump describe him in person and in general as very charming and witty and funny. And I think that the men that were standing there, I don't know if they were men and women, I didn't see the pictures of these Navajo code talkers. They recognize that the kind of the humor in it. They also recognize, by the way, that there's lots of people in their lives.
I'm not sure you can say that they recognize the humor. They seem to be pretty...
Well, let me say it this way, is that I think what he said had an effect on the room, but I don't know what's in their heart. I'm not trying to read their mind. But wait a second, Tara. Hey, listen, I didn't interrupt you. I mean, you stood there on national TV and said you could read my mind about who I am. All I'm saying is this: when the president says that, and I think makes something that's kind of witty and funny and all that, I agree. I get it. You guys don't think it's funny, but here's the thing: the people around him, those Navajo code talkers, they're not on here. We have Elizabeth Warren and Tara claiming the aggrieved status. Here's what I would say: he honored these people in front of, by the way, a painting. Let's see how many times Obama stood in front of the painting. And by the way, in Missouri, the Democrat Day for Democrats is called Jackson Day. So we can get rid of everybody in history. But here's the point: the president honored these folks, and we're talking about their great contribution. After that, I think let's move on. Let's talk about the unnamed sources that Maggie is claiming told her something about something else.
Okay, let's clear this up. It's not just me. The National Congress of American Indians, which is like the NAACP for the American Indians, they have come out very clearly. They are the largest organization to represent American Indians and Native Americans in this country. So if they feel as though that it's offensive...
The Nation also issued a statement disavowing his
There you go. So again, there's just because you sit there and think that it's funny, maybe, a lot of people thought Archie Bunker was funny too, but he was also offensive to a lot of people. So we have an Archie Bunker in chief who is disrespecting American Indians and making classless jokes from the podium when it was supposed to be a ceremony to honor people. It's just unbecoming of the President of the United States. And if President Obama or Hillary Clinton had done something in reverse, you'd be screaming bloody murder. So it's that kind of intellectual dishonesty that is just,
you better read, girl. You better read.
I don't mind Tara having a different point of view, but this idea that she's going to get on TV and lecture what I would or wouldn't have done, if you find it offensive, Tara, that's fine.
Your own actions support your hypocrisy, Ed. So just go ahead.
A lot of people watch the president,
but people see right through it. Go ahead.
Okay, a lot of people. A lot of people watch this president, who he was, and they voted for him for president. And your side lost, Tara. So
my side
the
was
American people lost.
Who actually believe in conservatism and believe that character and respect and honor should be part of the presidency. And you know what? The American people are losing right now with President Donald Trump in office doing acting this way.
Ed Martin, appreciate both your perspectives. Thanks. Next, latest from Alabama, where U.S. Senate candidate Roy Moore spoke tonight after disappearing from the public eye for a few days. What he is saying now, plus our Gary Tuckman sat down with women who say Moore was a regular at the Old Hickory House restaurant, where he allegedly met one of his accusers who he allegedly sexually assaulted behind the restaurant. What else they remember when we return.
Well, y'all thought they was gonna get to it. However, it looked like that topic got a little hot. But I don't blame Sister Girl. She read to the gods, honey. She read that idiot. And I don't blame her, honey. He sat up there giggling and laughing like the shit was funny. I'd have cussed him out too. I ain't playing. But I really wish they'd have got to what I was trying to see. I wanted to see them talking about what they was talking about before I went live. But hey, they might not get to it. So I'm going to cut my live now because I don't want to waste y'all time. But if it comes back up, I will go live again. Peace. Oh, hell. How do I stop? Oh, there you go. My bad, y'all. Peace.